Our second talk today is given by Asma Farouk. Asma is a PhD student at the University of Trieste. She will tell us about how perturbations propagate along the solutions of linear differential equations, a relative error analysis. Please, Asma, share your screen. The stage
Thank
is
you,
yours.
Sam, for the introduction. I would like to extend my gratitude to organizing committee for providing this great opportunity during this hard time of pandemic. Uh, Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to talk about how perturbations propagate along the solutions of linear ordinary differential equations. Briefly, it's a relative error analysis. And this work is jointly done with Professor Stefano Mazet. My my presentation is divided into four parts. Firstly, for a most general matrix, I will introduce you with three condition numbers, namely condition number with direction of perturbation, a condition number independent of direction of perturbation, and lastly a condition number not only independent of direction of perturbations but also independent of specific data. Then I'll confine my attention on analyzing these condition numbers for normal matrices. Asymptotic behavior of these condition numbers is also part of the presentation. At the end of the presentation, to testify or analysis, a few numerical tests will be presented. Consider the following ordinary differential equation and suppose that this matrix A is perturbed to A tilde. Uh, Perturbation in matrix A results in perturbing solution of the equation, and it takes the form y tilde t. Epsilon denotes a relative error in matrices, and xi denotes the relative error in the solution of the equation. However, both these norms are generic norms are defined on Rn and Rn cross n. We specified our perturbed matrix A tilde by this equation. Here in this equation, matrix B is direction of perturbation with unit norm. We firstly define our condition number with direction of perturbation in the following manner. And for the problem under consideration, this condition number takes this form. Here in this quantity, this is Fletcher derivative of matrix A in direction of B, and y hat is a unit vector. Our second condition number, that is condition number independent of direction of perturbation, is defined as supremum of the condition number with direction of perturbation, and here it takes the following form, where this quantity is a linear operator. And finally, our third condition number is not only independent of direction of perturbation but also independent of specific data, is defined below. Here, important thing I would like to mention is that in conditioning of such problems has attained very less attention in literature. To best of our knowledge, we know two papers on this topic, one by Edwin Dedman and one by Almohe and Nicholas Haigam. But both these paper presents computational aspects of the condition number. On the other hand, our study is more on theoretical aspects of the condition number. Our work study, our study is about how these condition number depends on t and on initial value y0. Moreover, asymptotic analysis of these condition numbers is also part of the study. So, analysis of these condition number for normal matrix. From now on, matrix A is a normal matrix, and these, instead of these generic norms, we use two norms, and To emphasize on true norm, we denote our previously defined condition numbers by this notation. A being a normal matrix, we can give a spectral decomposition of matrix A. In this spectral decomposition, lambda i's are eigenvalues of matrix A, and pi is the orthogonal projection on eigenspace of eigenvalue lambda I. Taking advantage of orthogonality of pi, we can give this very useful equality, and we use this equality for our analysis. The spectrum of matrix A is denoted by lambda, and we divide this spectrum by decreasing real parts. Firstly, by decreasing real part in the first first subset of this spectrum lambda, we have all those eigenvalues with a real part, with the largest real part, that is denoted by R1. R2 denotes real part of the eigenvalues with the second largest real part, and so on. RQ is the minimum real part among the of the eigenvalues. We define orthogonal projection on sum of eigenspaces of eigenvalues lying in same subset, and we denote this orthogonal projection by Qj. With all this structure, we are able to give our first condition number, that is condition number with direction of perturbation for the normal matrices, by this equation. However, taking advantage of orthogonality of Qj, we give an equivalent expression for this condition number, and this equivalent expression is highlighted here in blue. This function C is given by this equation, and actually we have analyzed this function C for different possibilities on lambda k and lambda I, but because of limited time, it's not possible to present all here. Before I start my next theorem, let me introduce you with notation J star. This is the minimum index such that this quantity does not vanish. And our next theorem is about, our next theorem gives us bounds of on condition number independent of direction of perturbation. Here we have the lower bound, and a lower bound for the lower bound lambda I is on whole spectrum, and lambda k is from J star to onward, and this function d is given by previously defined function C, provided that lambda k is a real eigenvalue, and this function d is defined as linear combination of these two functions, provided that lambda k is a complex eigenvalue, and this denotes the conjugate of lambda k. Upper bound of this condition number is given by next inequality. Here, important thing is these bounds, the lower bound and upper bounds, corresponds to non-generic situation, that is J star greater than 1. And we can observe an exponential growth of this condition number in this non-generic situation in T, and a generic situation, that is J star equals to 1, is given by next expression. And in this generic situation, this condition number grows linearly. Our next theorem is about a very special situation, that is when y0, the initial value is if our initial value lies in rightmost eigenspace of eigenvalues, and that is Q1 y0 equals to y0. And in this situation, our previously defined condition number independent of direction of perturbation coincides with its lower bound. We observe same condition number in case when Q equals to 1, and this Q equals to 1 condition can be fulfilled by shifted skew symmetric matrices. So for shifted skew symmetric matrices, we have this condition number once again equal to its lower bound. Next theorem gives us bound on condition number independent of specific data. We observe uh, exponential growth of this condition number provided that q is greater than 1. Yes, okay. Okay. Asymptotic analysis of these condition numbers. Before I start asymptotic analysis, here are a few important notations. J star is the same notation I already introduced you. It is the minimum index such that this quantity does not vanish, and J double star be the minimum index such that this quantity for some k does not vanish. And f of t goes to g of t stands for with increasing t stands for this equality, and other important notation is given by next point. C infinity, we define C infinity by this quantity, and for lambda I in lambda j and lambda k in lambda l, provided that j is less than l, we can define our d infinity by C infinity if lambda k is a real eigenvalue, and we can define it by a linear combination of these two these two functions if lambda k is a complex eigenvalue. Here, the first theorem is about asymptotic analysis of condition number with direction of perturbation. And firstly, this theorem states for the condition J double star equals to J star, it states this condition number grows linearly in T as T increases, provided that this condition does not vanish, this quantity does not vanish. Next, it gives okay. Next, for J double, if J double star is less than J star, and if this quantity does not vanish, then our condition number with direction of perturbation shows exponential growth with increasing t. Theorem 6 gives us asymptotic analysis of condition number independent of direction of perturbation. Firstly, it states the generic situation, that is J star equals to 1. In this generic situation, this condition number grows asymptotically with increasing t. And for non-generic situation, we have two bounds, asymptotic lower bound and asymptotic upper bound. For asymptotic, and we can observe a linear, exponential growth of this condition number with increasing t. And here is another relation of this condition number. Our last theorem gives us asymptotic behavior of condition number with independent of direction of perturbation, and this condition number once again shows exponential growth provided that this q is greater than 1 with increasing t, and we have another relation that is defined in the terms of log, and it is given by for increasing t we have this one. To testify our analysis, we have few numerical tests. Our first example is about skew symmetric matrices. For the left plot, we considered a 2x2 skew symmetric matrix, and for the right plot, we have 4x4 skew symmetric matrix. And we plotted maximum of this quantity over 10,000 random selections of matrix B. And we observe, since this is a skewed symmetric matrix, we have a situation Q equals to 1. And we observe that every time maximum of this quantity very close to 1, and which verifies our second part of the theorem 3. Our example 2 is about for the symmetric matrices. For the left plot, we have 2x2 symmetric matrix, and the second plot is for the 4x4 symmetric matrices. And for the left plot, we choose no, actually for the both plots, we choose our initial value y0 in a way to have the generic situation that is here by theorem 6. We chose our initial value to have this generic situation, and we plotted maximum of this value over 10,000 random selections, and we observe maximum of this value asymptotically goes to 1 as t increases. For these two plots, we considered 2x2 symmetric matrix. For the left plot, we choose our initial value in a way to have that initial value in rightmost eigenspace in order to testify our theorem 3. And we plotted maximum of this value, and we observe every time maximum of this value very close to 1, which verifies our first part of the theorem 3. And to testify here the non-generic situation of theorem 6, we choose our initial value y0 in a way to have a non-generic situation. And we observe in this non-generic situation, condition number is it does not tends to 1 with increasing t. So, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Esma. Jemima, do we have any questions on Zoom?
We don't at the moment, but can I ask one? So my question is, you presented these two situations, the kind of generic one and the non-generic one. Could you comment about how often you expect to be in each case?
Actually, it depends on initial data. It depends on your initial data. So our study is mainly about to study the behavior of these condition numbers for different type of the initial datas.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Minhong, do you have questions on YouTube?
No, there's no question at the moment.
Okay.